Hey, gentlemen. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers to you.
Are we rolling?
We're rolling, baby.
Yeah. Hey. Well, welcome back to the Original Liberals podcast, episode...
whatever. It might be out of line, so we better not say the episode number. Yeah, just in case we have to.
Still in the single digits.
It's still in the single digits, probably.
Yeah.
Anyways, very excited to have a guest with us tonight. A good friend of ours, someone we've won a lot of trivia tournaments with.
We have.
My man Dan over here.
Yep.
Who missed the last one. We came in first going into the final trivia question. We muffed it up. We know if Dan was there, we would have won.
Dan would have pulled us over the finish line for sure.
Definitely.
We've been in that position before there, in that where we're all or nothing group. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
you're either first loser or the winner.
Well, I think Dan is one of the reasons it's super interesting to have you on. Is I think you spent 27 to 30 years as a correctional officer.
Yep.
Is that the right title?
Well, I was actually retired as a correction sergeant.
Correction sergeant in the New York State penitentiary system, right?
Correct.
Man, tell us about yourself, and kind of maybe we'll get into that. I'm sure you have a hell of a story or two.
There's like 1 or 7. That's where I grew up and where I ended up raising my children. You have to be a civil servant to make ends meet, or you're working 50 to 60 hours a week, and then going home, eating dinner, and then working another 8 or 10 after that.
And you're talking about upstate New York?
Yeah, Catskills.
The Catskills.
Depressed area when I was growing up, and still is. I mean, although the small town that I grew up in and lived in has been taken over by the post-COVID scared buyers. They were buying anything within like a 100-mile radius in New York City so they could still commute.
Okay.
So they all bought houses up there. Everything that was they bought everything sight unseen.
So everything just bought right up.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable. Values of homes went sky high. And they were buying them over the phone.
Because I'm not familiar, and I'm sure some other people who aren't, who haven't lived in the area. How far out of the Catskills from the city?
Well, I was right off of 17, so it was an hour to Harriman, and then another 40 minutes, and you're in Manhattan.
Okay.
So an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah. Wow. And this is where people are purchasing, so they can be in somewhat relationship.
Yeah, it's settled down a little bit. I'm still part of a hunting camp up there, and I'm there for once a year.
Sure.
And it's the real estate market's settled a little. But it's still outrageously, holy cow, how do you a couple starting out like my son, late 20s, trying to buy a house up there, it's almost impossible.
Almost impossible.
Yeah.
It's hard enough down here. I mean, think about
I'm
so lucky I bought my house when I did, 2014, so super low interest rates. I mean, we're living in an affordable area.
And we're locked in. Those rates.
Yeah.
It's hard to move.
If you're trying to buy one right now, even in South Carolina, I feel really bad for you.
Yeah.
For sure. But
this area right here, I mean, I've been here almost 20 years. You haven't been here how long, Dan?
7.
Almost 20.
And Dan's one of the good Yankees that came down here. All right.
I didn't bring New York with me. I left it.
Actually,
I left because of that.
We're all good Yankees, right?
I guess we are.
I'm a Mainer.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania over here. So,
but I think I feel that, and my experience with people is once you get out of the heavily populated areas. And Boston's one of them, New York City, obviously, Philly, and you can go right down the coast, Washington. Once you get off of that, I don't know what it is, 70-mile radius, and it thins as it gets to Maine.
Yep.
I mean, once you get out beyond that, most of your people are just regular people.
What do they call that? They call that the Northeast Corridor?
Yeah,
is that what
Seaboard,
Atlantic Seaboard, yeah.
But once you get outside of that area, everybody's kind of the same, just trying to get on and get on.
That's really true. There's a lot of truth in
it. Kind of works the same way down here, too. Go to Columbia and see.
It gets pretty redneck once you get into it.
I mean,
it's okay with
it's not quite as bad, but,
Maybe it just goes to show that it's not healthy for people to be packed in on top of each other like that and spend their whole lives on concrete.
Yeah, that's not the way people
I don't see how that could be good for anyone. You got to have I really enjoy hunting camp just to get up and go out and then watch the sunrise and have the forest wake up around me. I enjoy that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's not about the kill. It's about that. It's about getting out there and you're watching everything happen.
Sure.
Yeah, reconnecting with literally the way people are supposed to live.
Yeah, and that goes along with us, like-minded people who didn't know each other 5 years ago.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But you kind of gravitate towards like-minded people.
That's
For
right.
sure.
Well, I think we all come from pretty rural areas. I mean, I'm from literally an island off the coast of Maine.
Oh.
Lobsterman's Village, actually the largest lobster port in the East Coast, if I'm not mistaken. And you're from, the woods in Pennsylvania.
Town is 700 when I left it, but I think it's like 400 now.
699.
Yeah.
How about it?
Reverend Jim reference.
Well, you're the only guy I know that had a smaller graduating class than I did.
I got him.
33.
You got him beat.
What was yours, Dan?
31.
Wow.
Yours.
33,
something
I
like
think.
that.
Okay, and I think I got you guys beat by about 10 people. So it was like 42, 43.
Wow.
Both my children graduated in 2011, 2015. 32.
Wild.
They're pretty steady with that. Cold winters will do that.
Yeah, no
Back in
kidding.
the early 60s, there was really only 3 TV channels. There was nothing on, and it's cold. There's
That's
only
right.
one thing to do.
Yeah.
man.
Make more babies.
That's it. Go ahead and breed. There's nothing else to do.
Well, Dennis, we're really excited to have you on. I think there's some stories that you can share with us and everybody else, and we're excited for those. So start your stories, man. Start telling us
What
kind
do
of
you
where
wanna
you
know?
start from the beginning.
Everything was dark.
In the beginning, there was light.
It was good. I graduated.
The Spirit of God moved upon the face of the water. And God
Read
said,
the book. It's great.
It's a different episode, Dan.
wrong episode.
The book is much better.
Yeah.
No, I grew up in that small town, and then I went west. I left when I was 17, and I was going to join the service, and I got plucked out of the service to do civilian intelligence. And I did that for a number of years, which I really don't want to talk about because I like my life the way it is. I don't want to, screw that up.
That would be a fun thing to talk about. However, we kind of get why you
Well, if
may
most
not.
Americans knew what was really going on, they would just shake their head and wouldn't believe it.
I think most of them probably wouldn't even listen, but the ones that listened would shake their head and not believe it.
The internet was not developed by a politician. Moving on.
Wait. I thought Al Gore invented the internet, didn't he? Right?
Last I knew, he had nothing to do with it.
Whoa, that's boy. I haven't been paying attention, have I?
Yeah, instantaneous conversation among the services is what it was for. But then I got out of there and I went into the prison system in New York.
Okay. And how old were you when you started in the prisons?
I've been 89. So I've been, almost 30.
Almost 30.
No. Yeah, almost 30.
So you were definitely a man by the time you stepped into.
I was a man when I got home. When I
Yeah.
left home, I thought I knew everything. My mother was a raving idiot. My father pretty much died when I was 13 of a stroke. Is what Taggart men do in
Sure.
the 40s. He was an electrician, but I knew everything when I left. Absolute knew everything. My mother was an idiot. All the teachers, and I was the worst student on the planet because I knew everything. So so I left to fix the world because I knew everything. When I got back, having found out that I knew absolutely nothing, I actually went home and apologized to my mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went in there. We didn't have a great relationship to begin with, and when I went home, and she had met this other man, and this is the first time meeting him. She'd been with him for years, and he's a bit of a dick.
Okay.
But I apologized I told her, I knew everything when I left. I don't know what happened.
Sure.
So then I went to jail.
Well, the better part of salvation is repentance, right? That's all right.
I think we all go through that a little bit, though.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I think it's just part of being growing up.
Yeah,
Part of being a
we all
man.
go Fool's Hill once or twice.
Oh, for sure. I've been there a few times. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, I also thought I knew everything and realized I knew absolutely nothing. I think I figured that out around like 25. And then I started to learn shit for real, but
Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually at a wake for a friend of mine who had died young. He had a car accident and died, and I was actually at a wake. And Uncle Don, he's not my uncle, but he was Uncle Don, had retired from the prison system. And he said, "What are you doing? You've been home for 2 months. What are you doing?" "Working wherever I was working." He said, No. Take the prison test coming up. Take that. Do that. He said, "The state trooper test is coming up, and NCON. Take the tests. You need a fucking pension." I can swear on here.
yes, you can.
Yeah.
Because that's just what he said. You need a fucking pension. He said, "You're going to live up here and start a family." I was engaged at the time to my first wife. "You need the benefits, yada, yada, yada." He threw the whole thing on me. And I said, "Okay." Not knowing, I was still spinning from the last decade. But another guy I knew, Doug Smith, had just taken the job, and he just gotten out of the academy. He was at Eastern, and he came over and he said, "Oh, you're gonna love it. It's not what you think. You know, the riots are over. Everything's great."
No more prison riots.
Yeah.
All right.
So, boy, was he wrong. And that was a swing and a miss on Doug's part.
So how many
Good sales pitch,
How many
though.
prison riots have you been through?
Personally, been in
Well, no, in the building. Yeah.
well, I was CIU for a long time. I went.
What CIU you mean?
Crisis intervention.
Crisis
We have
intervention,
CERT
okay.
and CIU. CERT is crisis emergency correction emergency response team.
Okay.
That's the FBI that we have.
Okay, that's right.
If you want a nail driven in, call a hammer. CIU is crisis intervention. You want the nail taken out, and you still want to see it when it's taken out, you call the CIU guys and they'll come in and do it. And I went to, FBI training school with that, and we have our own separate group of intelligence and equipment and stuff. So if something happens, they call CIU, they go in and try to settle it peacefully. But you still need the hammer in case the nail gets rowdy.
Sure.
It's kind of a two-folded thing, and that developed after Attica. One of the things that Attica did pull out was the need for correction to have their own response to uprisings.
Talk about what's Attica.
You don't know what Attica is? Attica was a riot that happened in Attica, New York,
Okay.
at the Attica State Prison, September 8th, 9th, and 10th, and I hope I'm right on those dates,
okay.
of 1971,
Okay.
and which 29 people died, half of which were correction officers,
Okay.
and they were all shot by state police.
Wow.
They were all shot by.
All shot by state police.
Isn't that the same year that Kent State happened? The Kent State.
I could,
It was the
it's
60s.
the same era. I couldn't put the year on it. I'm
Okay.
not sure about Kent
I just,
State.
I'm not trying to
But that
create,
was,
loose connections, but I'm just saying it just that's the second thing I've heard of in that same 71 or 72.
Well, it was a pretty volatile era.
Yeah, it sounds like it was
I was
volatile.
in,
I think it was like 69 for Kent State, but don't.
Oh, was it?
Don't quote me on
Okay.
that. I think it was the.
I was
60s.
in middle school then. So.
Yeah.
But anyway, after Attica, it was a big riot. People died. And of course, in the aftermath, the lawsuits start.
Which is why Doug was saying there's no more riots because Attica.
Well, you had
still,
Attica, then Sing Sing in '82.
Oh, okay. So there's still a specter of that,
Yeah.
like life or death.
Yep. And then we had
Yeah.
Southport in '89.
And
And
you worked at which prison?
I started at Sing Sing.
Okay.
And made
And
my
that was
way.
near the Catskills.
Sing Sing's right on the river. Actually, the term going up the river refers to going from New York City to Sing Sing. 'Cause it's
No
right on
kidding.
Hudson.
All right.
Yeah, Sing Sing is in Ossining, and it sits in the... New York State's prisons have some of the nicest real estate. Sing Sing is right on the Hudson.
Okay.
I mean, it is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Tower 13 is, you're sitting there and there's the water. I mean, it's beautiful.
Okay.
And you got Japan next to it, but up the river came from that. You're
No
going
kidding.
Up the river from Manhattan to Sing Sing. You're going up the river.
So Tower 13, like what you mean is like when you're up in like the guard tower.
Yeah, when you're up in the tower looking over the yards, you can actually see the big river rats coming in underneath it.
Really?
It's a little disheartening.
You said big river rats.
Yeah, they're like this
big?
long.
Like dogs.
They eat dogs. That was
That
back
is
in
crazy.
the late '80s when Sing Sing was falling apart. But anyway, I started there. Then I went for a weekend. I had a weekend off, so I came back in on a Monday morning. And now Sing Sing at the time they were hiring because Cuomo. One good thing about old Cuomo is he built prisons.
Okay. So Mario Cuomo.
Yeah,
Okay.
he built prisons.
Yeah.
So you needed staff. So they were hiring staff, and the academies were flying. And I got in early enough where I got ahead of all of those guys. But anyway, like every 2 weeks, you had new supervisors, new officers. Everybody, Sing Sing was it. If you had a penis, you went to Sing Sing.
Okay.
If you didn't, you went to Bedford Hills. That's where the max women's prison is in New York, and
Okay.
that's in Katona. And it's actually the old hunting lodge of the Rockefellers. They donated to the state, and there's a building in the back called the O'Keefe Lodge, and it is the actual hunting lodge.
Sure.
And if you have a penis, you cannot go in there. They all have their own keys to their cells and everything. I don't know if you remember Jean Harris.
No.
She killed, I think he was a psychiatrist. She was his mistress, and she killed him. And she was in prison there. I actually ended up at Bedford Hills because my name started with a T. But anyway, so I go to work on a Monday morning after being off the weekend, and the guy looks at the sergeant in the window. Hey, you've been transferred. What are you doing here? I said, transferred? I don't have I didn't get orders. I got them. I left 3 o'clock on Friday. The orders were cut at 3:10.
Yeah.
So, and that's how things worked. I mean, personnel was so overwhelmed. They were just, shooting guys all over the state.
Sure.
So I said, oh, all right. He said, well, you're AWOL at Bedford. And I asked him how to get there. He said, listen, I'm from Buffalo. I have no fucking So I asked one of the secretaries. You ever want to know what's going on in the prison system? Ask the captain's secretary. She knows everything.
She knows everything. That's right.
So I went over and asked her, and she handed me the directions. So I got there. I spent, was it same thing for almost a year? I spent 6 of the worst months of my life at Bedford Hills.
Why the worst?
Women are absolutely 10 times worse than men. When I was promoted, they give you a wish list that has every prison on the state of it. At the time, there was 70. Mm-hmm. I crossed one out. Bedford Hills, I would never go back to that.
So why are women worse than men?
Well, they can psychologically fuck with you. I mean...
Well, that's understandable. Okay.
And that's what they do.
Okay.
I mean, on my tour, I'm at Bedford Hills now. I'm an hour late, so I've been there about an hour. We go into their mess hall, and it's very dark-ish in there, and it's late in the morning. Chow's been over, and they're cleaning up, and there was 6 of us came up from Sing Sing, and I knew all the guys. They were in the same class I was. And we're taking the tour by a woman who they built the prison around. She had like 850 years on the job, and she's taking us on this tour. And we're looking across the mess hall, and it's probably, 40 yards maybe.
Sure.
And like I said, the lighting wasn't the best. And I see down at the other end is a convict. And this guy's got this tiny little waist. He's got the green pants on. Convicts in New York wear green.
Okay.
And a white tank top. Bald head, cropped ears. That's odd. So I asked the lady, who's that? What's he doing here? She cracks up. That's not a he.
Right.
And she yells, hey, Panama! And it turned around. It was, I don't know, she looked like a pit bull with legs.
On 2 feet.
and she had a tank top on. She was built better than most men I know.
Yeah.
And that was my introduction to Bedford Hills.
Okay.
Was that. And like I said, I was there for 6 months.
So what's the inmate population there?
About 800.
So 800 approximately like
on the
that.
rag at the same time.
All right. Now from the oh no kidding, right?
Oh yes. I guess they get groups together and they start to cycle together.
That makes sense. I've heard that.
So
yeah,
for 10 days every month, Bedford Hills is ready to blow.
Hopefully it didn't occur on the full moon at the same time. And
everybody puts sponges on their shoes because nobody wants to be seen. It's a terrible place.
Now, dudes, we talk about, I'd want to be stationed, without knowing any better at the girls' prison because they seem less dangerous.
You think that.
Right. You think that, right?
I got hit with a frying pan in the goddamn kitchen there.
Okay.
I mean, still to this day don't know who he did with the damn thing. Just got whaled in the back of the head.
What percentage of the female inmates were attractive?
There was 5 of them.
So not a high percentage.
2 Puerto Rican girls who they think were twins. There was this absolutely stunning blonde. And then 2 other. One was a black chick and the other was a. I don't know. She had some combo, but boy, oh boy, she was smoking hot.
Yeah.
That was it.
5.
That was it.
That was it. And the worst part about Bedford is it's a combo platter of security levels. It's a female max, but it's not a max A. It's more like a max D. There's a fence around it. Mm-hmm. There's no officer in the gym or in the law library. It's run at the time. It was run by a lesbian. I think Elaine Lord's dead now.
If not, hey, how are you?
Give it away, Elaine. And it basically was, if you screwed up upstate as a supervisor at any level, your penance was Bedford Hills.
That's where you get sectioned off to.
If you hear somebody say, "Yeah, I'm a superintendent of Bedford," well, who'd you piss off?
Yeah, no shit.
Well, like Duffney was the deputy security at the time.
Sure.
He went from Eastern. I guess he pissed somebody off at Eastern. They said, "Oh yeah, well Bedford's open. That's your Monday." Because once you get above captain, you are management confidential. You do what they tell you to do. And, once they get done drawing blood, and you get your collar on, you go to work.
So when you first get hired as a prison guard, like they just toss you in, or I mean,
it's a process. No, it's a civil service exam.
Yeah, okay.
And you have to be reachable, And by reachable, I think right now it's a heartbeat. When I took it, it was a good job to have, even though my starting salary.
Was there a physical requirement?
It goes in stages. You have to pass the civil service exam, and then they send you a letter, and you are X number out of X test takers, and then you get another. And are you interested? Check. Do you like me or not? Check the box.
Sure.
So then you send that back, and then they send you. You've been accepted. Your appointment date is. Mine was June 1st, 1989. So 28 years over.
Yeah.
You lose track of time so much in corrections.
Goes fast.
Your appointment date, your academy date is that day. That's your appointment day. And between now and I got this letter in January. So between now and June, you have to do. There's 2 physical tests that you have to do on 2 separate days. One is a strength test, while the other is well, this is all back in 1989. And then the other's endurance. You have to go through a physical exam. Mm-hmm. They take blood and urine. And then in the process there's an investigation done by grade 14 hacks.
Background check?
Yep, that's exactly what it is. They take your fingerprints, they run through everything, which at the time was like, check the nothing there, But, they go through, and then the psych, you take a psych test somewhere in the middle of that, and it's given in a group thing, usually at one of the prisons. Mm-hmm. You go into the gym, and they'll give you the psych test, and then the results of your psych eval.
Was it literally like a questionnaire, or was there an actual therapist sitting there talking to you?
It's 500 questions asked 3 different ways. It's an 1,800 question test, but it really is only 500.
Okay.
They'll ask you a question, do you drink? Mm-hmm. I don't drink. And then 700 questions later, how much is a 6-pack?
Right.
Is it $10, $12, or $14? I want to know if you know what the price is, because if you know what the price is, you drink.
Sure. Yeah.
You can hate your mom. You just got to hate her all 3 questions.
And drinking's fine as long as you also know the price of the 6-pack.
They'll ask you, do you ever smoke pot? You ever done
Is it essentially
cocaine?
a way to see how honest you are?
From what I understand, because CIU is nothing but a test. It's also a 3-tiered evaluation system to get into CIU, and that is hardcore.
Okay.
And this is a little bit of that. They use the questions to find out your personality. Mm-hmm. And if you have some kind of personality disorder that they don't like, they just kick you back.
Understandable, yeah.
And you can appeal.
Yeah.
And if you are acceptable on the written test, then you go to an interview with 4 psychs. Mm-hmm. And you sit there in a little chair. They do the whole thing. They put you in a little chair and they sit behind a big desk.
Yeah.
Which I find comical because I've been there.
Yeah.
And then they fire questions at you.
Yeah.
And then they send you out. And they make
Are they also testing to see how well you handle stress?
Yes. A lot of it has to do with the stress level.
I would imagine.
And then if you pass all of that, you step in the door to the academy on a Sunday night. Go and watch you there by 6 o'clock.
I think you said this earlier, but how long was the academy?
When I was there, it was 7 weeks.
7 weeks. So it was almost about 2 months.
Yeah, now it's longer. I think it's because when I went to sergeant school, I had to speak for CIU. I think now it's 9 weeks or 10 weeks.
Okay. And you said you moved here 5 years ago. Did you retire and then move here immediately, or?
Yes, I retired in August and moved down here.
So you have a pretty good idea of what it's like now, too. So
still know a lot of people.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the guys that I supervised.
Yeah.
The younger 20-year-olds that I supervised.
Has it changed a lot?
Yes.
It has.
It's gotten dramatically worse. They've handcuffed the staff. Something fierce.
Meaning?
And we used to discuss things with the inmates. My whole theory on my job was I wasn't there to punish you. Mm-hmm. Your punishment's there.
The punishment's already been done, right?
I'm there to make sure you stay there and do what you're supposed to. You do what you do. Mm-hmm. I'll do what I have to do. Mm-hmm. And we're all good.
Yeah.
You be a convict, I'll be the officer, you do what I tell you to do. If you're doing anything here and I don't see it, I don't know it.
Okay.
If you touch one of my guys,
you get fucked.
it's on.
Yeah.
It all goes away, and I turn into the biggest rectal muscle on the planet. Mm-hmm. And I am very good at that.
Yeah.
And especially the last 10 years when I was sergeant, in the last 15 years.
Sure.
I was supervisor.
That's probably a pretty healthy way to handle things. There's a level, even just because someone's a convict doesn't mean they don't want respect. And if you give them at least a little bit of respect in the sense that, you know what, I'm not going to be up your ass as long as you do what you're supposed to do. And I'm sure that it makes for a better environment, right?
Prison is all about respect.
Right.
It's on a number of amount of issues.
Uh-huh.
Prison is all about reputation and respect. The whole system inside the walls works that way.
Was that the case also for the people who worked there?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely. I mean, nobody wanted to work with a skell.
What's a skell?
A shitbag, a fuck up.
Okay.
And you could always tell who they were because they were the ones. I worked under a lot of supervisors, but when I made sergeant, I modeled myself after two men, Pete Healy and Jimmy Dunn. God rest his soul, Jimmy Dunn. He was a super dude.
Jimmy Dunn.
Love you, man. He's a good guy, Jim. And Pete Healy, who's still alive. Pete Healy was a jazz man. He taught me so much about interviewing people and convicts and getting them to give themselves up. Jimmy was the shredder. He was straight as the arrow. This is the book. This is how we're going to do it. But he also understood people. He was a merchant marine. There was nobody more squared away than him and Ronnie DeVal and Pete Healy. And I modeled myself after them. And they had the respect of the rank and file the way they should. By book, you're supposed to stand up when the supervisor comes in the room. It doesn't necessarily happen that way. You get guys, there was guys that we turn our back on because we knew that if we needed them, they weren't going to be there for us. I stood up the second I saw Pete and Jim. I mean, and I'll fucking stand up. And I remember swatting a kid in the head because he was a little slower than he should have been to get up. Those are the guys, I wanted to be that guy when I was young.
Sure.
You know, Pete, Jesus Christ. If Pete Healy told me to run my head into a fucking wall, I wouldn't even ask. I'd just go over and run my head into the fucking wall. Is that good enough or you want me to do it again?
Yeah.
I wanted to be that supervisor.
Absolutely.
So everything's about respect. And then you knew guys that didn't, where I was going with this, guys that didn't like Pete and Jimmy and Ron, didn't like, he's a fucking asshole. He's just trying to make a name. He's this, he's that. Those were your skells. You didn't want to work with those guys because they weren't that. They were doing the job the way it's supposed to be done.
Right.
So if you had a problem with that, that tells me you're a slug. I don't want to work with you. Now, in the course of my career, I've watched guys get walked out for a number of things. Fucking convicts at Bedford Hills.
One of the 5 or one of the other 795?
I'm just curious. I was so new, I was just glad it wasn't me.
Was it worth it or not?
It's never worth it. That was back in the AIDS epidemic. Right? Are you afraid you stick your dick in there and explode? But I always thought they all had AIDS, and at the time I was young and freshly married, and I wasn't going to screw things up. I needed this job,
Yeah.
But I've seen them taken out for that. I can't tell you how many women I've walked out for fucking convicts. It's unbelievable.
What would you say just take the whole prison, everybody you've ever worked with, what percentage of them are straight, what percentage of them are doing shit they're not supposed to do?
That's a good question.
That's a really good question, and it takes a lot of thought. I met so many wonderful people there. I'll put it at 80% of people who were doing the right thing every day, even when people weren't watching.
That's good.
There's 15% who, given the chance to do nothing or do the right thing, they're going to do nothing. And then there's 3% that are just bona fide assholes. And you never knew what they were going to do. Maybe they were going to do it right, and maybe they weren't. Then there's 2% who are dirty as hell, and we tried to get them out. And they are the hardest because they're smart.
They're not dumb.
Yeah, they're smart.
Well, if they got through all the testing that you're talking about.
Yeah, and there was a guy, and I'm not going to name names, he's still working, that a few of us, we knew he was dirty. We knew he was dealing with the Bloods. Mark Cross told me he was working with them, but we could never get him. And, I mean, we went so far as to have NIG and everything. And I talked to Rivera, she was the IG person. Flat out told her what we knew. And she said, yeah, us too. I went, oh shit, you're doing it? Yeah, we're looking at him too. We'd never get him, he's still working.
Is that a sign of a good system or a bad system? When everybody can consensusly know that this guy's wrong, but they can't do anything about it?
It's the system in general. I mean,
is it a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a good thing.
It's a good
because
thing.
That's granted, this guy, yeah, all right, he's walking because we can't get him. But on the flip side, you can't get thrown out for just stupid stuff.
Yeah.
And you can't manufacture. You gotta have facts. You have to have something to back it up.
Evidence and proof.
That's plausible in court. You gotta have.
Sure.
I'm gonna be honest. When you said 2%, the 2% or the dirty, like down low and dirty ones. Like I don't know. Only thing I know about prison is prison movies. Like you just assume you assume it's like 50%. Like at least me. Like I don't know.
No, guys are there.
Yeah.
Guys are there just trying to get by the day. I think I might have overestimated the group or underestimated the group that would do nothing. But I came in at a great time. I think I had a wonderful career. I met so many great people. I have so many funny stories about shit. And of course, there's a few that aren't so funny. But I went back to back with a guy one day in a block, and they closed down 6 prisons because they thought me and Newt were dead. And I mean, you can't put a price on it.
They thought you were dead.
It was a Sunday afternoon in September.
Would there be a hit on you, you mean?
No, we were actually in the middle of a fight. They were trying to kill us on the block.
Okay.
This Saturday, middle of September on a Sunday. Our block is, at the time I was at Sullivan, there are X's. There's 4 X's, 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, D, E. And it's a maxi-max. Sullivan's no joke. So anyway, it's a Sunday, so in September, so you know what's going on. There's football games on the block. A lot of betting going on. And Newt and I had a pretty good reputation going in there. We caused disruption in trafficking of, the gambling stuff. If we caught it, we caught it. We didn't let it go. So anyway, we got called in there on a fight between 2 convicts. Now, he said it's an X. In the middle of the X is the control room, and it's a floor up. And you go in through a set of gates, and then you go up onto the flat, and then the tiers are like this. Okay? And then the corner of that tier is a TV, and the corner of that tier is a TV. So the fight was underneath the TV. So we went into the block, him and I together. And in New York, you don't have weapons. You don't have a weapon. If you want to carry a bat, that's fine, but I was always like, well, what happens if I lose it?
Right, it's the stand off.
Yeah, they're going to beat me with it. No, I won't carry that. So we went in, and the fight was under the TV. We went in to break the fight up, and it was a setup. We should have known when the block was full. We should have known there was something up, but we just went in, like this, blinders on. And we
Actually, Dan, hold on for a second. I think we'll take a quick break right now. This is a great way to set us up for the next part of things.
Okay.
I want to finish that story from right there, where right now we're at a setup that was placed on you guys.
Yes.
And we'll come right back to that.
Okay.
Cool. Cheers.
All right.
Gentlemen, we're back.
Yay!
So Dan, you were telling us about you were up in the, what do you call it, central control?
No, we were in A South, actually.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
control room is the A block control.
and down beneath the TVs was a setup.
Yep, me and Newt were underneath the TVs, and cons closed in, and
Well, what do you
That's
mean?
when the
Go ahead and
argument
go back a
started.
little bit. So you come down the stairs,
Up the
and you're up the stairs. Excuse me, and you're expecting
well, there was a fight going on.
but it was a play fight. It wasn't a
It
real
was an
fight.
inmate fight that they used to, because how the jail's set up is you got 2 cell blocks, and it's a north and a south side. So you have 2 over here. So it's basically 4 cell blocks, but they're separated. And then there's 2 over here. I had this corridor, A and B corridor. That was my job. Steve Newton's corridor was that corridor.
Sure.
There were the response guys. There's him and I, and then the escort. So you only had 3 responders on a Sunday. If you need help, you call help. People shut down things.
You think they waited for a Sunday specifically?
They waited for a Sunday. Steve and I were both on. Yeah.
Okay, because it was you guys being targeted.
Correct.
Okay.
So we went into the block, and there was a fight. And we like I said, we should have known, because every con was out. They could have been out. So you had the block officer there.
What do you mean out?
They were
Out
in
of their
their
cells
cells.
watching TV.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, contrary to popular belief, they are not in their cells 23 hours a day. You have to have a sanction on you for that. But anyway, so we went up to stop the fight, to put them away.
Sure.
And as
So
soon
did
as
you have any weapons on you at all? Anything?
No.
No armor, nothing. I mean,
No.
literally just
my shirt.
your shirt and 2 hands.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, because I always felt that if I had a weapon, it means I could lose it and have it used against me. I was more worried about that stick going up my ass than I was worried about beating somebody.
Somebody's ass.
Because you could take a bat every day. The issue, you want one? No. with the response, they'd always stick it up out the hole where you go to get your keys. Hey, you want the bed? Nah, take it out. I don't need that cracked over my head or disappearing somewhere I don't want it to. So we go charging in, and they surrounded us.
It was just the two of you.
Just the two of us and the block officer who was over at the desk. I don't even know to this day who that block officer was. Some new guy. He locked himself in the rec yard, which is a whole other story.
Wait, he locked himself in the rec yard? He was
The
trying
rec
to,
yard's behind the desk, so.
he was protecting himself?
Yeah, he cowered it out. So Steve and I went to stop. As soon as we crossed over, there's tables that form like an odd kind of triangle there.
Okay.
As soon as we crossed through the tables where the fight was, right underneath the TV, the fight stopped, and we should have known right then we were in a world of shit. But we didn't until we went, and he looked at me and said, "Oh shit, this is Dan. They say go tag," and I don't know, I must have said something like, "Oh fuck." And he said, "Turn around, you take them coming at your way, I'll take them this way, just make sure you can feel my back." So we were back to back fighting.
How many are there?
There was 68.
Wow.
Wow.
2 against 68.
Yep. And they, the guy in the bubble called the code, that's code 1. Officers.
This is the guy that locked himself in the yard.
No, the guy in the bubble.
The guy in the bubble up, okay.
Yep.
Gotcha, okay.
And so that does at least give you a fighting chance, because there's going to be...
Yeah, you gotta hold your own till help gets there.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
Sunday.
But it's Sunday, so
It's
you...
Sunday. So one of the responders was Jimmy Dunn. He was the housing sergeant that day. So I'm not 100% sure of the timeline even now. I mean, this was 30 years ago.
I'm sure there's an adrenaline rush and things...
Oh yeah, I mean, we're fighting. All I
Yeah.
know is I was in berserker mode.
Yeah,
You just go and you're trying to live.
yeah.
Because they're coming at you with everything they got. They've got, homemade stuff.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I had a number of cuts and stuff, and I got stabbed here, right up underneath my chest. I got a stitch mark there. I got stabbed in the back. On both sides, I got an upper torso stab.
You know
during it.
why they targeted you?
Because we wouldn't let them gamble on Sunday, and we weren't allowing the drug trade from block to block.
Gotcha.
And presumably other
I can't say that they did. All I know is that we didn't. Like I said earlier, you do your thing and I'll do mine.
Yeah.
And that's it.
So-
if I don't see you doing it, I don't know.
When you're in this situation and you see waves of inmates come, does time slow down?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. They gotta understand that block, inmates will segregate themselves if you allow them to. We had A South was more of a transient block, but the inmates will segregate themselves by race. They'll segregate themselves by gang affiliation, which one thing the state of New York does do is regulate their gangs. They will not put gangs together.
Okay.
So inmates will try to do that, because at the time there was a college program, so they would enter certain classes. Certain classes would lock on certain blocks. So they would get into the class trying to get on a block with the rest of their gang boys. And the state actually, the education supervisor there at the time, who was pretty wise, wouldn't allow. But they will segregate themselves.
That's
by
really
race.
not the case across the country, is it? I think...
No, California actually puts them together.
That's what I was going to say. I think it's...
And they wonder why they lose prisons,
Right.
They had a riot in Pelican Bay, no
They
shit.
put them together on purpose.
Purposefully, yeah. And they allow the gangs in California, at least they did, I don't know if they do now, but they used to, because we used to just shake our heads at them, the CIU guys. That was one of our responsibilities, CIU, is to regulate the gangs. They would put all the gangs in one prison, together in one block.
For one giant hellhole, I'm assuming.
Yeah, what are you trying to do, you idiot? You just put everybody who works near and around that cell block in danger.
Not only that too, is when you put everybody in the same gang in the same block and they have close access to one another, even your most green gang member, by the time they come out, they're seasoned and they're ready to go when they go to the real streets, right?
Well, they will be anyway.
Yeah.
Prison's just a, education facility
I was
for gang members.
gonna say, that feels like that, doesn't it?
That's all it is.
Yeah. So anyways, you got
All right,
this
so we're
situation
fighting,
going
and I
on.
don't know how long,
Yeah.
probably, and 2 minutes seems like 2 hours,
Sure.
and you're just, like I said, trying to survive. You hit the block was mainly blacks, and Steve and I are both white, so I hit anybody who wasn't white.
Which is basically just anybody but Steve.
There you go. I knew where Steve was, he was right here. And you keep doing this every now and then to
Yeah.
make sure your partner's okay. I mean, at least I did. I mean, this wasn't something that happened to me all the time.
Yeah.
But anyway, so as help started to arrive, the cons had jimmied the cell blocks, so they couldn't open the inner gate. So they couldn't immediately get in. You know, they had wedged the gate closed.
Yeah.
Well played.
Yeah, oh yeah, this wasn't a spur of the moment thing. So by the time they got the gates open, well, we've been fighting for probably 6-7 minutes, which doesn't sound like a long time.
No, that sounds like a
Yeah, it's
But it's an eternity when you're
Yeah.
And it's not like the movies where you hit them and they fall down and you never see them again.
No.
Trust me, you hit a guy, he ain't fucking going down.
Yep.
And he's not only getting up, now he's getting pissed.
Yeah.
So, you know, when the trick, that comes out wrong, it sounds like a professional. What saved us was neither one of us went to the ground. For some, I mean, adrenaline is a wonderful thing. Neither one of us went to the ground. We backed ourselves basically into the corner underneath the TV. So we only had to worry about these here. We didn't have to worry about here.
Behind you.
Right.
We were backed right up against the cells. And thank God they weren't in the cells. So everything was coming at us. So, I mean, be it luck or divine intervention, that's how things worked out. So this is going on. They finally get the gate open and the troops come in. They had closed, we had an annex attached to us, which is a minimum, and a Woodburn, which was a medium and still is, right next door. Well, Jimmy Dunn had called me, the medium, also send help. You know, then he called code 2.
This is a different prison.
This is a different prison altogether. He called a code 2, which in the state of New York is a riot.
Okay.
He called code 2 A South Sullivan to Albany Command. And with that, Albany Command is 2 captains. And they're watching the whole state on monitors and through the radios and stuff. With that, all hell broke loose in our area. I mean, they activated search from Eastern, Ulster, Woodburn. I think they went as far down as Greenhaven. And the annex guys, they closed the annex and they got on the vans. They were the ones there first. It's giving me goosebumps. They flew through the parking lot and they just opened the gates and went right around the back, and they were some of the first guys in. But
So how many, when you got reinforcements, how many guys
I
came?
have no fucking idea. It went from green to gray.
Yeah.
Because we were wearing grays.
Right, and they were
green to gray.
And they're green. Yeah.
But in the midst of all of this chaos, the housing sergeant, Ron DeVal, I mentioned him earlier, I smashed him right square in the nose. I mean, I busted his nose wide open. And God bless Ronnie. God bless you, Ronnie. He was black.
Yeah.
And so we go down to the infirmary after it's all over with, and I'm standing there. Ronnie's got a thing on his nose, and he's just standing there like this. And his perfectly pressed white shirt is beat red all over. And I feel like this big because I had nothing but respect for the guy. And I went over and said, Ronnie, are you all right? He says, Dan, I would have done it. If I saw my face, I'd have hit my black ass too. He said, are you all right? And he's got his eyes closed because I'm sure he's holding his nose. And he's looking for me, and I said, yeah, I'm okay. He said, Jesus Christ, this really hurts. You guys, you all right? I said, yeah, and my eye had swollen shut by then because this eye socket was busted, and I had a cut here, that break in my eyebrow. That was from then. But they sent in, up in that area, there's farms. So they sent in 2 of the biggest farm boys they could get me and Steve. Mine was Burley, Ward Burlingame. He's about 6'6", biscuit under 400. And he came in, all I remember is getting enveloped in gray. And he literally came up and just grabbed me.
Pull you out.
And he said, Tag, it's Burley, you're okay. You're okay. And I was, like I said, full berserker mode. But it's tough to fight with 400 pounds. And he whispered in my ear, it's okay, I got you, man. You're okay. I got goosebumps. And
This is the beginning of your career too, right?
I was like 7 years, 8 years on the
Any thoughts of just hanging it up after that?
Fuck, you think?
But you did.
I went to work the next day.
Next day with busted eye socket.
The reason I went to
and
work
multiple
was-
stab wounds.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, they just hit me, and then thank God nothing got ruptured.
Yeah.
I mean, they took us to the hospital and they stitched us all up. I mean, I got
Sure.
stitch marks here and there and there. But that was back in the day. I remember Uncle Don telling me, go to work. When Uncle Don gave me my badge at my graduation, he said, go to work. So that stuck in my head. So we were at the hospital. I said to Steve, "You going in tomorrow?" "Fucking A, fuck them assholes. I'm going to work." And
You both went to work.
we both went to work. Didn't go Tuesday.
Yeah.
Didn't go Monday. So I got this. After they cleaned things up, and now you have to write the after action and the UI's unusual incident.
Okay. After action is your written statements.
Yeah.
You just.
They called all the secretaries in and everything. We just kind of verbally gave it to the captain secretary, and she wrote all the uses of force down. And
Sure.
then Jimmy Dunn, and Pete Healy was the lieutenant then. Pete was not the watch commander. Bobby Ketchum was. Another really good dude, Bobby Ketchum. And they brought us into the conference room, and the superintendent was in there. Bob Coleman, another great guy. And they went through the whole thing, and then Ketch left, and Coleman left, and Wilhelm, he was the deputy security, he left. And Jimmy said, "Just so you know, they are proceeding a complete beatdown of some motherfuckers up there, and if you want to participate."
Yeah.
I was like, "Nah, I'm good." Shit started hurting, and even though I was only
Yeah,
29,
I bet.
And that was it. We went to work the next day, and we went in. I punched in, I turned around, and everybody was standing up. And it was kind of cool. And then at lineup, they went through the synopsis of it. And Jimmy Dunn he was the desk sergeant. And he told them, he said, "They're in the back, by the way. For all you new people, they're in the back." So it was the only Code 2 in Sullivan history, I know that.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
The Code 2, you said, is a riot.
It's a riot.
It's the only official riot in the history of that prison.
In the history of that prison.
And there's only two of you to take on the whole thing.
Yeah, that's how it worked out. And
Wow.
How many Code 2s have you been through that prison or other prisons? Any? Or just that one?
That one, and personally, I've only had one other incident, something like that, and that was up at Southport. But,
Gotcha.
How many years later?
Probably 4.
Probably 4 years. So this was really kind of a thing that sounds like, considering the other ones you talked about, was happening a little more frequently back in the
Well,
early 80s?
they were the cons since, I wasn't obviously in the prison system in 71 or 82.
Yeah.
I actually turned it down in 82. I was out of high school.
Yeah.
But I was smart. I was going to go to college. So conditions were getting better and better for the convicts. They were getting more and more say. You had the inmate liaison committee. You had the disposition committee. The disciplinary system was better. They had gone to a tier system where if it was just a minor infraction, you didn't get beat over the head.
Sure.
The cameras were getting installed in some of the larger prisons.
A little more accountability.
Accountability there. There was a hiring bonanza. So for convicts, the food was getting better. That was one of the big things. The food was getting better. So their conditions were improving, so they really had nothing to bitch about.
Okay.
So things are getting better.
They're more
and better
likely
for
to
them.
just do their time.
Yeah, and I met as many incidents as especially later in my career as a sergeant. I had the Hannibal Lecter unit, so every day was a fucking...
The Hannibal Lecter unit?
Yeah, let's explain upon that.
Well, they started with BHU, Behavioral Health Unit.
Okay.
So these are crazy killers, basically. They can't adjust to prison life, and they're violent to both other inmates and staff. So they had to find a place to put them. The state had actually lost a lawsuit. So they had to create this mental health unit, high security mental health unit.
Yeah, for psychopaths.
Yeah, the Hannibal Lecter unit.
Yeah. Yeah.
They wouldn't come out of a cell unless they were cuffed up, and they had these little boxes.
So this is the 23 hours a day lockdown that you were saying that it isn't like earlier, but in this unit, yeah.
They called it the BHU. We had to move them from Baker South all the way up to where they built this special zoo for them. And I shit you not, they literally had a semicircle of cages, one-man cages. The cages were probably 2.5 feet square with a bench.
Tiny.
And there was 8 of them in a semicircle. That was their group therapy.
Wow.
And then there was a couple of rooms where they had those where they were having single therapy.
So how did group therapy go? I just feel like that would have been...
Lots of spit and shit getting drunk. It's like watching the monkeys on a fucking in the zoo where they throw the piss back and forth on the shit. Guys were out of their mind. When it first started,
So why even have the group therapy?
they lost the lawsuit.
The lawsuit. Okay, gotcha.
It was either they do it on their own, the state of New York, or the judge would appoint someone to do it for them. And he would tell them, this is what you're going to do.
Wow.
So they submitted, the state of New York submitted this plan to the judge, and the judge went, oh, that'll work. And he signed off on it. So they had to do exactly what they said in the plan.
Yep.
And they actually had the plaintiffs would come in. They came in initially, I think it was 4 months after we were up and running. Like a big to-do. You know, I had all these Albany lawyers and all these plaintiffs' lawyers. So they're all coming in to see this, you know, wonderful BHU unit that we got. And it was quite the day. Actually, one of the psychologists we had there got fired that day because he didn't do what it was the Attorney General's attorneys that were there. The Attorney General of New York lawyers told this doctor, you're not, and he's talking to these guys, giving them the background. He's like, no, you're not supposed to do that. That's HIPAA. Well, I'm a doctor. I can talk to my colleagues. I'm telling you, no. And this doctor, who was arrogant to beat the band, said, I'll talk to whoever I want to. No, you won't. And so he went right back over. That guy went over, got on the phone. 2 guys came out of nowhere and escorted him to the parking lot. You're now fired. Get off the ground.
Yeah.
Wow. That's how serious this whole thing was.
Yeah.
Big money.
Yeah. Nobody's playing.
Oh, they weren't. But
Yeah.
we were told, man, listen, these are the attorney generals of New York. They own us.
Yeah.
They tell you do something, you do it.
Yeah.
And, you know, but they were great. They were on our side. You know, the guys actually, you know, they said you can actually be truthful with them how this is working or it's not or whatever.
Sure.
Because there's a lot involved in this. So that went on for a few years, and then it kind of evolved into what they call now is CAR, correction, something rehabilitation. What is attitude or whatever rehabilitation? So BHU turned into CAR, and because it didn't work, they had to come up with something else.
Yeah.
Because then they would graduate out of these boxes to desks that their leg chains would be chained to.
You think there's
but
any?
they had hands.
Is there any?
And they were this close. So what are they going to do?
Is there any value in any of that for any of them? Has there ever been an inmate in that level of security that was just like, you know, the therapy helped even a little bit? Do you think?
No.
Really?
No.
Wow.
No. In all my years,
That's purely
So
about
it's just all mandated bullshit.
I've seen. Yeah, it's a money grinder. You got to hire all these people, and
Right.
You know,
Because it is a corporate enterprise, the
fucking A.
prison system. Sure.
Well, they were trying. You know, the state wanted to be its entity because that's what they are, and the push at the time was all these privatized jails. So they were gaining momentum.
Yeah.
CCA, Correction Company of America, and
Did the private companies do it better than the state ones?
no, God, no. You don't
No.
pay they don't pay them for shit.
Oh.
Pay their hacks for shit. I mean, there's more corruption there than that.
Interesting.
I mean, say what you
Yeah.
want about New York. I wasn't kidding when I said 85% of people are just doing their job. There's wonderful people working in the prison system.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Flat out. I mean, and you're going to have people getting walked out for stupid shit. It's just human nature.
Yeah. Nobody's perfect.
Yeah,
There's going to be things.
It's just the way it is, you know. There's a lot of apples and snakes out there.
It's interesting. Maybe that's a case where privatization is not
No,
the answer.
they can't afford to pay what they have to pay to keep guys honest.
The private
guys.
So I would say
Not that maybe they can't
that
afford it.
it's
they just
more
don't.
likely that the people who are getting these government contracts, there's no real competition anyway,
Yeah.
because it's purely nepotism and it's being kicked back and things of that
So you
nature.
can't really call it
So
private.
So it's not a real
It's not a free market.
It's not a free market.
true
It's not
free market.
laissez-faire.
Yep.
You know, yeah, exactly.
Laissez-faire prison system. I love to see that.
Come get your cake.
So tell us maybe the funniest story you can think of.
All right. So there's a Sunday, right? I don't even remember when it was. Late 90s, early 2000s.
Everything happens on a Sunday. Huh?
Because everything's gone. Not everything, but this just happened.
God's busy doing other things on
yeah,
Sunday,
that's
all right?
So I get a call. I had court. I get a call from Tom Klein. He's on East South. Now, E-Block is its own world. This is another attempt by the state, but this one actually does work. E-North is crazy. Convicted crazies. Normally, you're pedophiles, some of low-level crimes, mainly psychiatric patients who got kicked out of the psychiatric hospital who didn't take their meds and they do something stupid. Those are North guys. East-South guys are retarded and crazy. A lot more pedophiles.
Okay.
A lot of jerking off going on in that block. It stinks because you can always smell a schizophrenic a mile away. So Tommy had to, but they're good bids for officers because there's 3 guys on the block. And the
Makes for a good bid. All right.
That's a good bid, yeah. Because regular blocks only have 1. They're all alone.
Sure.
And plus, the cons during the day, during the week, they're out. They're off the block. They're at their programs. They're getting cured.
Yeah.
So you sit there and you read your paper, you read your book. Whoever's left, they're mopping the floor, they're painting. It's always one of the cleanest blocks too. It just stinks.
Wow.
Because the cells all stink.
Right.
And that's a whole other ball of wax. But so Tommy calls me, "You got to come down. This is hilarious, Dan." All right, what's up? I mean, it's Sunday. I'm in my office. So I get down to East South and he says, 210. There are 2 tiers. In cell 210, you come through the gate, you go up.
Second tier, 10th block, 10th cell, yeah.
10th cell from the left, or whatever you want to call it. So I go up and there's this con laying flat down on the bed. He doesn't get up off his bunk. I say, "Get off your bunk, John." "Can't." "What do you mean you can't?" "I'll come in there, motherfucker. Come on in." I'm like, "What?" "I can't get up." "Why can't you get up?" "I'm stuck." "You're stuck." "I'm stuck." All right. I went back down to the desk. "Tom, how's that guy stuck?" "You know those little holes in the bunk, Dan?" "Yep, put his dick through it."
Oh my gosh.
Did you fucking check?
And he's stuck.
He goes, "I'm telling you, go up and look." And I ain't fucking looking. As soon as you got there, it's hilarious. He goes up with me. We open the cell. He's like, "Mr. Klein, don't do it, man. You're embarrassing me." I'm like, "No, that's just sale, pal." Sure enough, now this is a white guy. There's his dick hanging from underneath the bed. It's blacker than this. And it's starting to swell. The blood's going.
Yeah.
No way out.
No way out.
And it's got hurt. I mean, that right then, I'm like,
Dude, it hurts listening to it. Jesus.
And they turn on, "Tom, what do you do?" He said, "I don't know, that's why I called you." "How the hell am I supposed to know?"
Jaws of life.
"Oh, wait a minute." So he's on a desk, he calls Ketchum. Bobby Ketchum is a watch commander. Bob was a thing of beauty. The funny dude, tells stories, a heavy smoker. Back then he could smoke in the prison system. So he calls Bob. "Bob, I got a problem." He says, "It's fucking Sunday. We don't have problems on Sunday." He said, "Well, okay, so we got a problem." So Tom tells him, and I'm listening to him, and Ketch goes, "What?" So he comes up, does his round, goes up to the cell. Now, Bobby Ketchum's claim to fame was, so let me get this straight, and he would say whatever. So 210. So Ketch goes up with Tom, because you always escort your senior up. So Con doesn't come over. Bob's like, "What the fuck?" He said, "Just look down under the bunk." Holy! Let me get this straight. How did you do that? Con, it fell in. It fell in. Okay. Bob leaves. Long story short, he called. Now at the time, our prison had a really big infirmary. Ginger worked there. And it was run by a Dr. Muller, a woman. Good looking head. Had a Porsche 911 when her license plate said jail doc on it. She was, I wouldn't say cold-hearted, but she was pretty far north.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Ketchum calls her, and he says to me and Steve, "Stick around a minute. I got to have witnesses for this because I know how this is going to go." He puts her on speakerphone. And of course, it's Sunday. She's off. "Hey, Doc." "Yes." "What's up, Lieutenant?" "I got a little problem." She says, "It's Sunday. We don't have problems." He says, "Oh, yeah, we do." He says, and it's a medical thing, so I think it's actually your problem. So he tells her. She says, "Have one of the nurses go up and cut it off." Click.
That's cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super cold.
And Bob goes, "Oh, no." "I'm not really big on loving convicts, but I ain't cutting a man's dick off. We got to come up with something else. You got anything?" We're
There's
like,
got to be karmic consequences for that.
so
Anyway.
Steve and I, at the same time, we don't have cigarettes. We go, "Let me get this straight." He goes, "You assholes, get out of here." So, long story short, what they end up doing, they call in maintenance. First, they got to take pictures, and this guy, Joe Maxwell, who's a fucking raging asshole. I got other stories about Joe. He's up underneath this bunk, taking pictures. This guy,
Jesus.
we're like, Joe, you're enjoying this, man. So anyway, what they do is they call maintenance in, and they cut it out. They cut that piece of the bed out, and this steel's like this thick. Whoa! Because they sleep on it.
How do they cut it then?
With a blowtorch. So they put wet towels down.
Which turns to steam.
This is
But yeah.
insane.
They cut this out, so they cut it out about this wide and from his chest down to his knees.
Sure, so at least it can stand.
So they had to have blocks under it and the whole nine, and we're standing there, and oh my God. This ran through the prison. Everybody in the jail knew what was going on. I think they knew what was going on in Woodburn.
Yeah.
You know, they call over to catch, hey, how's it going with the guy's dick? And I'm like, no, you don't know. So they get him down to, now he's got they call an ambulance, and they say, no, that's not an emergency.
What?
So now we have to transport him to the hospital ourselves.
You've got to be kidding me. How is that not an emergency?
I guess might have been a woman on the phone. I don't know. So anyway, so they can't get a gurney up there, so they make the guy walk from that block. It's like a 400-yard walk down the draft.
And everybody
So
sees
he's
this
walking down there, butt naked.
dick.
No, they put a towel over. So he's walking down, the towel's going. Now this thing's still getting pumped with blood.
Right, yeah.
So this guy started to get a little lightheaded. He's not a big dude. So they get down the draft, and the draft officers are like, okay. But the transportation officer is Gene Hips, and Gene is by the book. He goes, how am I going to cuff this guy? Usually you cuff, you put leg irons on, you cuff him around the waist and the whole nine. And we're like, gee, Gene, I think you should call Bob Ketchum. Oh, he does. So Bob comes to the back again. Now Bob's up to here with this whole thing. He just wants to go home. He comes in, he goes, well, let me get this straight. He's got 30 pounds of steel attached to his dick. And you're worried about him escaping. I gotta see Bob's face. He's got the whole. So he looks at Gene, he says, I'll tell you what, if you don't come back with him, you're fired. If you try to escape, good luck. And he leaves, he just walks out.
Oh man.
So they take him to the local hospital. They don't want to go near this. So they tell him to take him to Albany. So now he's got to ride in a van all the way to Albany.
And by how long has it been? How long has this dick been in this thing for?
Who knows?
Who knows?
But at least since second shift, which is 7:30. Now it's around noon.
Jesus.
So he's probably had
4 hours.
That's 6.
6, excuse me. 6, okay.
5.5, 6 hours
Yeah.
he's had it on there. And who knows when he put it in? So closer probably to 8.
So to get this damn thing removed.
They get him to Albany.
I gotta know.
So there's been some torch involved.
This suspense is killing me, man.
They take him to Albany, and Albany Med goes, yeah, no problem. They take needles.
Draw the blood out.
God.
They got it out. That piece of steel's 210 east south. They welded it right back into place. I shit you not. If you went up there right now through the bunk back, you'd see a piece of steel welded.
The welded steel. Oh, that's great.
But they did cover the problems with little washers. They welded a whole bunch of washers on all those little holes just in E-block.
Holy shit. During that story, you had mentioned Ginger. Who's that?
Ginger's my wife. She started as a nurse there on the midnight shift.
I heard you met in prison. I didn't know if you met. Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah. That's an interesting story all of its own. She ended her career as the nurse administrator. She ran the prison hospital.
Sure.
And everybody loved her, but I loved her the most. We met, when was it? Mid-2000s.
Okay.
She was always that sexy redhead, I thought.
Yeah.
And I got into a disagreement with a convict, and he stuck a toothbrush in my arm.
I see that.
There's stitch marks there.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize my brother was actually working at the time. Came in, Dan, what's that toothbrush in your arm? Oh shit! I didn't know. So I went down to the infirmary, and none of the other nurses would touch it. And Ginger, took me in the room. She says, "I'll take that out." So she took it out and stitched me up. And nothing says love like the extraction of a toothbrush.
Of a prison shank.
You know it's love then.
Love at first sight, baby.
Yeah. Love at first sight.
That's awesome.
That's wonderful, man. And you guys have been together, you said, since almost 20 years.
No, we didn't. We were both married at the time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We went through the same type of divorce where we were the last ones to find out our spouses were cheating.
Yeah.
And we hooked up in 2010.
That's great, man.
10 years
That's
after the toothbrush incident.
No, 5.
5. Okay.
Well, that's kind of a special relationship.
Yeah, it
when
is.
you can share those type of experiences that nobody else knows about.
Yeah. She's seen me at my best and at my worst. She was there, you know, there's stories of me, like I used to, her main porter, George, another farm boy, big farm boy. George was really good, and if I had a problem with a con and we had to discuss it, I'd go down there, no cameras.
Yeah.
And I would tell George, nobody gets in this room until you see my face.
That's right.
And I'd go in and George would stand in front of the door and me and the con would discuss whatever we had to discuss. And one time, the captain, who had just gotten there, a new captain, Urbanski, and by the way, go fuck yourself, retardski. Another raging fucking asshole that they promoted because he tested well. He comes down because he gets wind of it. And George is standing there in front of one of the exam rooms and he says, I want to see that inmate. Nope. Sergeant Taggart told me not to let anyone in there until he knocks on the door and I see his face.
They're having a prayer meeting.
And he says, I'm giving you an order. Well, you might want to wait for fries because I'm not letting anybody in. So I knocked on the door, George turned, and I went like that. He let him out. And I walked out. Hey, what's up, Captain? I walked by him. Mm-hmm. And he went in and talked to the convict, and, you know, they were cleaning him up. And he says, what happened to your face? I fell against that counter right there. Did you have any assistance? The floor was wet.
Yeah.
But she, you know, I used to get out and visit her all the time, my free time and shit.
Sure.
She's wonderful. Everybody loved Ginger. All her staff loved her because she's
understandable.
Well, she's a
great.
likable person, but she's a fantastic administrator.
Yeah.
Went out of her way to accommodate her staff, and Ginger has the ability to read a room rather quickly, and so she knew, you know, what was going on. If there was a problem, we brought a guy down. He was combative. She would make sure all the nurses were in the back. And there wasn't anything other than plausible deniability for them, because inevitably there'd be somebody that wanted to interview them. Well, where were you? I was in the back.
Sure.
Took them right out of the picture. They didn't have to answer any questions. And
That's awesome.
just all, and Ginger was smart enough to know to do that.
Yeah.
Well, she's been a big part of our trivia success.
Yes,
She's a very smart woman. Terrible tasting man.
I think she's got a good taste in
But,
And we all outpunted her coverage.
I needed
We all did.
22 years of hell before I could go to heaven. So.
That's right, man. That's great. Was there any other stories that you feel like you gotta
I
get
got
out?
all kinds of stories. It's up to you guys.
No, man. I mean, I think we're getting closer to the end. But tell me your one last best story you got, if you got one.
Do you want to hear an escape story?
Yeah.
Who doesn't love an escape story?
It's not the one you think. I did make a ton of money off of that. Sullivan's had a couple of different attempts.
Are you saying that you're the guy who jumped out of the plane?
No.
You're not.
B.B. Cooper? I cannot.
Are you B.B. Cooper?
Dan Cooper. I've aged well. I cannot deny or confirm anything.
You heard it here first on the Original Liberals podcast. We have found B.B. Cooper.
I look just like the picture. Santa Claus jump out of the back of the plane. Halloween in 2001. I was in working shoot. Used to do doubles at 2s and 4s. Work 2 16-hour days, be off 4.
Sure.
That was the way to go. So I was in a box, which is your shoe special housing. That's your 23-hour lock-in. And much different than today, where we had guys in there doing eons in the box. But anyway, and it's 4 o'clock or something. We hear the code 18. That's an escape.
PM.
Yes, change of shift. And I look at Dave Boyce, who's got the desk. We doing a drill today? He starts looking at paper. No. Here's it again. I didn't know goddamn drill. Now, it's me and Boyce. I'm number 1. You had 4 guys in the box. So the 3 other guys, you had Dave and 4, so it's 5 actually. The other 2 guys, they got to go. With every prison job in security, you have your regular job, and then the last line on your job description is your escape number. and that gives you a job during an escape. And you look to the back of it, and like mine was, stay in the box, do the count. Yes. Cool. Dave's he's the one who's got to let me in and out of all the gates, so
Okay.
Dave and I are feet up. This is great. Bye, guys. So the other two guys leave. What happened was, in the 2000s, the New York prison system was evolving because it had started to age. And as much as Cuomo built in the 80s and 90s, now all those prisons need to be updated.
The infrastructure was falling apart.
Well, not falling apart, but they need to be upgraded. They built them in a hurry.
Gotcha.
And now they're adapting to all the different things that are going on. Cons are getting younger, smarter, and stronger, so they gotta do a little bit. And with everything that happens, they try to close that barn door after the horse is out, so the rest of them can't get out. So one of the things they were doing was upgrading the security measures in the yards. Even though to get out of Sullivan, you gotta go through a 40-yard wide, 3-tiered fence system that, yeah, good luck with that.
Razor wire.
Yeah, well, that's the end. You
Yeah.
have electronics, you have taut wires, you have all kinds of stuff, cameras. I mean, it's
Dude with guns and towers.
one tower.
One tower.
110 feet high, sees the whole thing.
Yep.
And the guy in the front and the guy in the mobile. You got a car going around it 24/7. But anyway, the East Yard had just a regular wire fence that over the years with the mowers, the ruts had gotten to be about this deep and about that wide. Well, there's a skinny guy from East South. His name was Inmate Green. He was probably, God, he was only about that tall. He had...
Little pedo, huh?
Exactly.
Little pedo. Okay.
So he had scurried underneath that gate. And now, when you get outside of that, it's wall. And he had backed himself around the wall all the way to the front, watched the day shift leave, and then he found an open window and went into it, trying to think of his next move. Well, that window happened to be the Deputy Security's office. Wow. There's a story behind that. Now, this guy was not well liked. He put out a memo, I kid you not, you can't make this shit up, a month before, chastising everyone for not securing their windows and their uniforms. Wow. You know, if you don't secure your windows and uniforms, you're gonna get a write-up. And I kid you not, it was like less than a month before that. Karma just went wham! So that's the office he ended up in. And he was, looking around the office for something. He opens up one of these closets and...
Let me guess, a uniform.
You guessed it. I mean, you can't make this shit up.
That's nuts.
And not only was it a uniform, it fit him perfectly.
Wow.
And it was everything, right? Shoes, right up to the hat, the whole nine, Class A uniform. So he puts it on, why not? And he said, in the interview with him afterwards, because I was CIU, I had interviewed the guy. He said, I found a uniform and I'm thinking, holy shit, I can get out of here. I just gotta wait a minute, put the uniform on, pull the hat down, and try to walk out the front.
Sure.
So he was just getting up to try that when the door opened. It was the Dep with Captain Healy now. Now Healy had made captain. I mentioned him before.
Yeah.
And he was with him. And I've got somewhere, I should have brought it with me. I have a Polaroid of the four of them. There's Dep Green. And the Depth of Security. And Pete looks like the cat that ate the canary. But yeah, that happened.
It's a hell of a story. That is awesome.
Well, one of the guys that was with me, Greg Senft, he was headed down the hallway to the command center, and Pete Healy grabbed him, and this was just after they opened the door. They closed the door back up, and Pete said to Greg, "Go get a set of cuffs from the arsenal. Don't tell anybody. Just go get a set of cuffs." All right. So he ran down to the arsenal, got the cuffs, and came in. He's the one that cuffed up Green.
Wow. Dan, I want to thank you for coming out and doing this with us tonight.
Oh, I had a blast.
His stories are incredible. I have a feeling there's a bunch more where that came from, too. Boy.
A lot of years, a lot of fun stuff. But like I said, I met a lot of wonderful people. Yeah.
Dude, we made a good choice bringing Dan
Yeah,
on.
for sure.
Yeah.
We'll have him back. We'll do a follow-up.
Glad it didn't disappoint. We didn't get to talk about the Freemasonry at all. But
Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit at some point, for sure.
Sure.
Sounds like, if you've seen our previous episode on Freemasonry, sounds like Dan had a very similar situation where he was also the worshipful master.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but that's a story for another day.
I guess.
And I cheers to you, my man.
I don't have anything left.
I got very little Good bet.
I'll tell you what, kid, let's pour Dan. I want to thank Dan for bringing the whiskey to the podcast.
Absolutely.
Man shows up with a bottle of Glenlivet 15. He's invited back, but we'll pour enough for old.
Came from my retirement party. I got scotch and cigars for my retirement. I've got bottles of scotch in my cabinet like you wouldn't believe.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Thanks
to
for
that, guys.
having me.
Cheers.